and I wanted to talk a little bit about the relationship of a person with the Qur'an and the fact that the Qur'an should not be something which is distant from a person. The first one we're going to mention is at-tilawa, reciting the Qur'an. And reciting the Qur'an, it should be done properly. Allah said, وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا. Recite the Qur'an in a measured, proper way. And Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned the people who recite the Qur'an, يَتْلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ أُولَٰئِكَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ. They recite the Qur'an as it deserves to be recited. It is they who believe in it. So a person, when they recite the Qur'an, they should strive to recite it well. They should strive to recite it in a measured way, in a way where they have, they are giving each letter its right. And there's no doubt that when you study the ways of reciting the Qur'an, there are different speeds that you can recite at, which are all permissible. There are, a slow tartil, and there is that which is faster than that. However, the idea here is that you still give each letter its right, and that you don't mumble the Qur'an or speed through the Qur'an when you recite it. Also in this is that you make an effort with ilm al-tajweed, the science of tajweed. From the relationships the Muslim has with the Qur'an, the connection you have with the Qur'an is al-hifz. And again, with memorization, we see a lot of people who are relaxed about it, lazy with it. They're happy with what they've memorized. I've memorized 10 surahs, or I've memorized half a juz, or quarter of a juz, or I know 15 surahs. And that's it. I have no intention of learning any more. A person really should be striving to memorize. And they say, I'm too old for it now. You're not too old. You can memorize double what you know, triple what you know. A juz, 2 juz, 3 juz. And, only Allah knows, with Allah's tawfiq, where you will end up. But for sure, you can memorize more. And that there is a huge difference for the one who carries the Qur'an in their heart versus the one who has to read it from the Mus'haf. To be able to carry even some of the Qur'an in your heart, it makes a huge difference to you, and also to your prayer, and also to the fact that you can recite the Qur'an ala dhahri qalb, with just what is in your heart. Even if it is only a juz or half a juz or a certain number of surahs, but you're trying like that. So this is really important. And again, we see some parents who probably only know a handful of surahs of the Qur'an, yet their children are huffaz of the Qur'an. And they were pushing their children to be hafiz and to learn the Qur'an and to memorize the Qur'an, but they themselves were not willing to do it for themselves. So for those children who your parents are like that, encourage them. Say, come on, we'll do together. Just a few more. So we'll add a few more. And when you add a few more, it becomes easier and easier. Also, with regard to both hifz and tilawa and recitation, is the issue of making a schedule and having a wird of the Qur'an, a portion of the Qur'an you read every day, even if it's just reading it from the Mus'haf, that you divide the Qur'an like you do in Ramadan. And I know almost everybody does it in Ramadan. Almost everybody. Not quite, but almost everyone divides up and says, I'm going to finish the whole Qur'an, I'm going to finish half the Qur'an, I'm going to finish this surah by the end of Ramadan. But that should be every month of the year. So it should be that, for example, you divide up the Qur'an so you finish the Qur'an every month. Or you divide up the Qur'an so you finish the Qur'an every 7 days. Or every 10 days. And so on. And some people even every 3 days. But the main thing is you're dividing up the Qur'an to finish it. Even if a month is too quick for you and you want to make it 3 months. But at least that means 4 times a year you'll finish the Qur'an. From beginning to end. Make yourself a wird that you read every single day. From the things that defines a relationship of a Muslim with the Qur'an is at-tadabbur. Really thinking about how this ayah applies to me and what it's telling me and what the lessons are in it. And this is, in my mind, it's not tafsir. Tafsir is another part of this relationship, which is that you are making an effort to understand what Allah wants from His speech. To understand the murad of Allah min kalamihi, muradullahi min kalamihi, jalla fi'ula, that you want to understand what does Allah mean by His speech, what does He want from us, from His speech, from His Qur'an, what do we take from it? And studying that in the light of tafsir al-Qur'ani bil-Qur'an, what does the Qur'an say about the Qur'an, what does the Sunnah say about the Qur'an, what did the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum say, and those who followed them, the Tabi'een, and so on and so forth. the language and the other things that make up tafsir. But tadabbur, that is more about the thought. It's more about you reflecting upon it and reflecting upon what this means for me and how I apply it in my life. So tafsir being a formal study and tadabbur being that thought and reflection. And from the most important things that a person can, and perhaps all of what we've spoken about leads to one thing, and that is to act upon the Qur'an and to implement it and to make it a part of your life. Because like Aisha radiallahu anha said about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, كان خلقه القرآن أو كما قالت, that his mannerisms and his behavior was that of the Qur'an. The Qur'an is there to act upon, not just to recite it like as if, like some other religions might recite their books and it means nothing to them. It's just recitation. But to recite it with a view to memorizing and understanding and reflecting upon it and implementing it in your life and acting upon it. And these are just some of the aspects of a Muslim's relationship with the Qur'an that makes the Qur'an like your flesh and blood, something that is such an integral part of you that it can't be separated from you. But that has to come with regular habits of regular reading, regular memorization, regular study, tafsir, and so on, according to what Allah Azza wa Jal makes easy for you and according to what you can keep that regular habit with.